Our thought leaders today are Dave Stutzman and Louis Metcalf. Dave is a registered architect, certified construction specifier, and founding principal of Conspectus, a specifications and quality assurance consulting firm. Louis is an architect and certified construction specifier. Louis is a senior quality manager for Gresham Smith and Partners, a national architecture, engineering, interior, and planning firm. Now, Dave and Louis, over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave, and I'm coming to you from lovely San Diego, here attending the CSI Academy. So that we're doing this a little bit differently, and actually, I've got Walter Scarborough here sitting with me, enjoying at least the visual side of it and half of the conversation. So maybe I pass the headphones over to him, and he'll be able to help contribute to some of the conversation. What we want to do is a little bit different today, and I'm going to pass this over to Louis here in a minute. We've done a lot of poll questions because we want to use the poll questions today to sort of spark the discussion and see what your attitudes are about continuing education. So that's going to be the MO as we go through the presentation today. Louis?
Hi, I'm coming to you from sunny Nashville, Tennessee, where we've had our first sunny day for several days, but it's lovely. We're going to talk to you today about continuing education, and there's a lot of things that we didn't get when we were in school. A lot of necessary everyday tasks that we need to accomplish, and just basic information that they never told us. I'm sure that none of us had a meaningful course in writing specifications. I can remember one or two lectures about how useless this. I remember how useless they were, but I don't remember much about the content, and they sure didn't prepare me. So the question is, you know, how do we supplement that? Now, I did have one advantage over a lot of folks, and that is that I attended the University of Cincinnati, and in their architectural program is a co-op plan. So by the time I was a fourth-year student, I had picked up some enough information that I was actually sketching details and handing them to the guys who had graduated from the five-year schools for them to hard edge. The only difference was they were making $100 a week more than I was because they were graduates and I was just a lowly co-op. But anyway, so the question is, if school doesn't prepare us for these essential tasks like writing specifications, reviewing submittals, doing other CA tasks, contract administration tasks, where do we get that information? And of course, one of the biggest things that genuinely, we might fuss at the architectural schools for not teaching specifications, which I think they really should. But there is one area of our practice, especially for our specifiers, that it really is not very practical for schools to teach, and that is product information. What products are available, what products should be used when and where, and why should you use this product this time, but on the next project it would be inappropriate. And so that's the primary focus of our session today. And Dave, who is heavily committed to post-college education, as you can see from the fact that he's teaching at the CSI Academies, and I myself have helped out at the CDT preparation classes. I did that for over 20 years. We'll turn it over to him and let him talk to you about the next step.
Well, Louis, I'm surprised. Just because of you having the experience at University of Cincinnati, I want to tell you about my university experience only, 60 miles north of you at Miami University. There, I can tell you that we had during professional practice class, we had, as I remember, one mention of specifications during one afternoon session, which was for 1 hour out of the entire professional practice session. So the universities really are not teaching it, and we're actually finding some interest too locally with Drexel University in Philadelphia. We have a couple of students attending CSI meetings now, and they truly do seem to be interested. One of them just contacted me via Twitter and will be joining the chapter. That's great news.
It's a University of Memphis. I was chapter president when I lived down there for a while, and we worked with they have an architectural program. It's not fully accredited yet, but there are a lot of people that take it and then go on to the University of Tennessee to get their an advanced degree so that they can sit for the ARE. And at the University of Memphis, we got the dean of the program to join the chapter, and he made arrangements so that the students who attended the CSI CDT preparation classes, if they passed the CDT exam, got full college credit for that. And I thought that was pretty nifty.
Well, that is interesting. But moving on now here to the practical side of education, this continuing education process, I see this as really, these 4 items is what is the intent of the continuing education. So if you want to go ahead and move on to that next frame there, Lewis, I think we'll zoom in on those. Okay, oops. So it's really about maintaining.
Ahead of myself.
Yeah, there you go. That's all right. It's really whoa, you did. And on our side, because it's a slight delay, it's yeah, we'll catch up to you. Okay. About maintaining license.
David, I'm always a couple of steps ahead of you.
Really? It's only because you have the control and I'm at your mercy at this point. All right. So I know that the continuing education, AIA and the State Board of Licensing for Architects and Engineers, they're requiring it to maintain the license. CSI is requiring it to maintain certifications, not the basic CDT certification, but the advanced certifications for CCS, CCCA, did I get enough C's, and CCCPR. So we have those obligations as long as we want to maintain the licenses and certifications. But I look at it as something beyond that we're really out there trying to improve our subject knowledge and improve our skills. And that's all, to me, it's about personal improvement. The licensure and the maintaining certifications, I don't know about most folks. I do know that some of our clients at the deadlines are often scrambling trying to get those last couple of credits. I find myself well in excess of the required number of credits each year, so I don't see that as a particular problem. So I look at it more as personal improvement as we go through the year.
And to me, that's the great genius of CSI, is that we have practitioners who are willing to spend time with other practitioners to give them some ideas about what works and what doesn't work. Things that are, and we write publications and we, provide instruction and so forth to help people do their everyday jobs quicker, better, faster, and more efficiently.
And even though there's no credit for it, I'll tell you, here at the CSI Academies, I probably am learning. Well, no, you didn't let me finish here. Because I'm here teaching several classes, I probably learn more out of preparing for these classes to present them than the students are likely to get out of the class. So there's just this personal improvement, being involved in trying to help others understand too. I think you end up gaining additional knowledge yourself.
Definitely.
Okay, so we want to move on and start into these poll questions. Any comments yet? I don't see anything from anyone. Okay, now for everyone else, this is the interactive portion. So make sure you're participating in the polls. and we'd like to get your opinions as we start discussing the results.
Okay. Rob, I guess you have to take the screen back over.
Oh, nope, I can just launch it right from here, I believe. Here, let me try it.
Oh, okay, fine.
What would you like? Here you go, Walter. You can answer, if we can.
And the question is, how many educational sessions?
Oh, because we're a presenter, we can't answer. I know what Walter's answer is.
Do you
We'll add one
participate
more.
in? Of various types, lunch and learn, manufacturer reps, CSI, technical meetings, so forth. Okay. Looks like about 80% say 1 to 3 per month, and 20% say 1 or more per week.
Okay. Is that something that you expected? Louis?
Yeah, I that's about right for my expectations. Now, I think the folks who don't write specifications, it's probably a bit lower than that. But for the specifiers, I would expect that would be about right.
Okay, so if they're doing only one a month, that would get 12 credits a year, and for most licensure, that's not going to be enough to meet the requirements. Correct? I believe in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, it's 18 credits per year. AIA is 18 credits per year. So if you're only doing one a month, you're probably not getting enough, and you may be scrambling at the end. If you're doing 3 a month, you've got nearly double what you need. So somewhere in between there is the just right if you're going to meet the certification and licensures. So Louis, were you going to move on to the next frame here? Because
when you tell me to, boss.
Oh, well,
Oh, that was the thing. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So is 18 a year really enough to keep you current with all the new products that are coming out, and keep you current with learning about integrated project delivery and how that affects your Division 1 specs and how that affects maybe other specification sections? And is that enough to keep you current with BIM and learning how to integrate specifications with BIM? On the other hand, there are people like David that have maybe 80 a year, and is that too many that we get confused? So we need to find the balance in there, and we have a responsibility. There are just hundreds and hundreds of new construction products that are becoming available every year, and it's difficult to keep up with all of those. And so, and the very one that we need for the next project, we might not know about. So we need to avail ourselves of as many opportunities as possible. But beyond just, as I say, beyond just products, we also need to know about other industry trends like BIM and IPD. Yes, David.
And if you're not staying, I was going to say, if you're not at least participating to this minimal level, the 18 a year, you're probably not doing well, staying current with the industry. You can read the magazines and all that sort of thing, but that doesn't really get you involved in the community and involved in the discussion about what is going on in today's marketplace and finding out what other individuals are experiencing.
That's a key word, discussion, is that as good as magazines are, you can't ask them a question, and you can't challenge them on their facts.
Well, you can, somewhat, through letters to the editor, but that's about it.
A little after the fact.
Yes.
Our next poll is, what type of presentations do you want? And here are
Rob?
the options. You open that poll, please, Rob. There we go.
This one's an interesting question, I think, because when people tend to talk about continuing education and earning the credits, I think the one that most often pops up is lunch and learns in the discussion. So I'm curious to see where everybody's opinion is this.
Well, that's the lunch and learns are out in the lead, although they're closely followed by paid topical seminars and webinars. And multi-topic conventions is a close third. Periodicals and books are distant fifth and sixth, fourth and fifth. Okay, the results are close.
I'll take your word for it because.
So we have 71%. And of course, this is one where you could check multiple ones. 71% for lunch and learns, that's the leader, but followed closely by 68% for paid topical seminars and webinars. David, I think you and I need to get out of the free webinar business and get into the paid business. 58% for multi-topic conventions, 16% for periodicals, and only 13% for books.
Okay, well that's I guess I'm not really surprised. I'm surprised at the number that selected the conventions as the option that offers real value, only because it's a larger expense to most and you don't see the same level of participation, or it's a more difficult participation. But the lunch and learns by far and away the leader here.
I was surprised at the number of folks who are participating in paying for seminars and webinars. That surprised me a little bit. But
I think what I'm seeing on that, though, Lewis, is that some of these are being offered at less cost than they had been previously. So that if you can get a seminar or webinar, especially the webinars, for $75, and you can end up sharing it with your entire community or your entire staff, that's a bargain.
Yes, it is. That's certainly true. Not too many people. Not too many people are getting much out of books, and of course that depends upon the subject. If you're going after product information, there's not much in books, but if you need to learn how to write specs or something like, or do CA tasks, then a book is where you want it.
We had a couple of comments on this question. This is great. This was what I was hoping would happen. Do you see those, Lewis? I can read them for you since you're sharing.
Yeah, why don't you read them, because for some reason or other they're showing up very small on my screen.
Okay. We have...
Oh, there they go.
Okay. We have the first one, yes, that says that they didn't see free seminars and webinars, and they're suggesting that those are ones that they attend a lot. We have another comment from Wade Bevier that says there could have been an option for unpaid, the free seminar webinars. You're right, it wasn't there. We have one limitation on this software that we're using, believe it or not. We are limited to 5 answers, so we're trying to pick answers that might be germane, and we're going to miss some. Wayne Yancey is here with a comment that says events such as ArcUS are the best venue for meeting with suppliers, better than a trade show. That's interesting. Have you participated in that, Lewis? ArcUS?
No.
Or something similar?
I don't even know what it is, actually.
Okay. It's going to be similar to CSI's first event, the Master Specifiers Retreat.
Oh, that one, yes.
Right, liken it to like speed dating with manufacturers reps.
Yeah, I was invited to go to that, but declined this year.
And Patricia Gallup says conventions offer the seminars that cater to the documents instead of the products. That's an interesting observation.
And I think very accurate. They tend to be a lot more generic in the subject matter, so it's a different type of information.
And I like Wade's last comment, and I guess this goes to the free seminars, webinars, like participating in practice group webinar. Thank you, Wade. Would love to see those kinds of comments. Glad you were here with us and you enjoy it. Shall we move on to the next one?
I just did. So, what format do you find most effective for these kinds of educational facilities, or activities, I should say, events? While we're waiting for the poll surveys, I see Marilyn Smith suggests that books might be more valuable than this survey would indicate if presenters had gained the knowledge they pass on in a concise form in seminars from books.
Yep. And we've just been stalked here at the CSI Academies. We have Joy Davis taking clandestine photos. We don't know where that photo is going to end up. Okay, so how are you doing on this poll? Oh, okay, there it is.
All right, and well, 86% said that they prefer in-person small groups. The second highest was 70% for electronic live. Third, or distant third, was 34% for in-person large groups. Only 17% liked the canned electronic presentations, and 7% print media.
I have a comment about the canned electronic presentations. I find that if somebody is in desperate need of credits, the electronic on demand can be a very good way of getting the credits fairly quickly. They allow, you're supposed to be spending about an hour for each credit, but many of those, if you're doing it on your own, you can finish in half hour or less and still be able to pass the test that's required to get the credits. So if credits are important.
Yeah, I'm not an AIA member, but I understand on their website they have a very large number of subjects, and a lot of them are based on some of the workshop sessions from the conventions. Okay. We got a comment from Patricia. It says canned electronic webinars are great for credits, not for knowledge. Well, that's pretty candid assessment, Patricia. Thank you for that. Folks, if anyone would like to share your voice with us, you can raise your hand on the software and speak your comment or question aloud instead of typing in it as a chat box. Christopher Davis says the pre-recorded webinars are nice when you either need something specific to brush up on or to get quick knowledge on when you need it. So it's kind of that is true. It's a reference thing. Instead of looking to a reference book, you can go to a reference webinar, and so those are helpful for that. Here's our next poll, Rob, if you'll release that, please. It's now open. What product presentation type do you like? I used to have my receptionist when I was a full-time specifier would ask salesmen who came in on a cold call without a previous appointment. She would ask them, "Are you a CSI member?" And before she would call me to see if I was free. And those guys got the message, and we started getting. I started seeing them at the meetings. Okay, the poll is closed, and we have 81% prefer the comparison type of product presentation, where multiple products are shown and compared. 44% prefer the generic type of product presentation, like the AIA presentations, where they're not allowed to name names, at least during the main part of the presentation. And 33% like the specific single name type, where you go into depth into a single product. And Alan Itkowitz points out that, of course, that product presentations need to be generic in order to get AIA continuing education credits without having to self-report. And the AIA has some fairly strict rules about that, but that is a bit of a limitation. Dave, why don't you talk about that subject a bit? Rob, have we lost David?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. It appears as though he's still online.
Are you there, David? Well, David actually feels pretty strongly about this. When we were preparing for this session, we were having discussion that many times in his office, he runs a large specifications consulting firm. When they invite people to come in, they specifically tell them not to do the AIA presentations because they want to be able to ask very pointed questions during the presentations, the lunch and learn presentations, about the specific the specific products that the rep represents fulfill the generic stuff that they're trying to tell about. So the comparison ones are very good, but they're rather rare. Not many people have those. I do have a couple of sales representatives who call on me that do have multiple semi-competing products that have, for example, different types of aluminum windows or different types of skylights. And that is always very helpful to be able to talk to them and say, well, when do I need this kind of skylight versus that kind of skylight, or this kind of roofing versus that kind of roofing. I guess the most common form of that is in roofing presentations in particular, because you'll find, of course, even some manufacturers have multiple types of roofing that they supply. Well, we will go on and hope that David can get back online with us. Our next polling question is, what concept presentation type is preferred? The poll is now open, and we'll see. One of our attendees suggests that when he sits down for a presentation, he really likes to know about specific products, really dig into the meat. And this one's very close. These are all very popular types. So the numbers are very close. Okay. Looks like we have a tie between multiple presenter lectures and demonstrations at 58%. That's the highest. Second highest is 42% for single presenter lectures, and only 38% for panel discussions. And I'd like to ask a couple people if you either type in a comment in the question box or maybe raise your hand and explain why you don't think panel discussions are very effective. Actually, in my experience with chapter programs, CSI chapter programs, the panel discussions seem to get better attendance than a single presenter. So would somebody like to join in on our conversation, especially since David seems to be having some technical problems? Someone show a hand. Of course, that's very similar to the multiple presenters. Demonstrations are always great, you know, being able to kick the tires. A few years ago, I always like to go to factory tours whenever possible, and a few years ago, Latacrete invited me to come up to their headquarters in Connecticut, and not only did they tell us about how to set tile and how to grout tile, they actually made us get our hands dirty and gave us some tile and some mud to play with. And that was really, really eye-opening because, you know, a lot of the products that we write about in theory, and I in particular haven't had much opportunity to be out on the job sites during construction. So a lot of my knowledge is head knowledge and theoretical knowledge. It's the stuff that's in the reference books, but boy, it really makes all the difference in the world if you actually get to play around with the stuff and see it going up. Christopher Davis shares a comment with us that if you are needing a CEU or LU or so forth, you usually have to listen to a presentation, but only a few tours or panel discussions offer hours. They're good to go for, but you don't get much credit, and that's certainly very true. Cheryl Dodd says she likes panel discussions because you get different points of view, and it's a dynamic format. Our next polling question is, what outcome do you expect? And Rob, if you'll open that up. And of course what we're trying to do is, what's the purpose for this education, spending the time going to a lunch and learn, going to a convention, what are we looking for? And the numbers are fast stacking up. And again, we have a very close neck-and-neck race between the second and third alternatives.
Louis?
Yeah, you're back with us, David.
I am. I love technical difficulties.
Well, good. Well, the poll is overwhelmingly 92% for improving general knowledge, and a distant second is future project application. And then way in the back, tied at 20%, are immediate project application and to challenge current methods, or Challend. I missed that too when I was looking at it.
Oh.
What did you mean by challenge current methods, David? Why don't you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I like to, when I attend these seminars, I like to have people challenge my thinking about the way I have been doing things, the way I perceive a particular product or a system. It's if my thinking is challenged, it gets me to look at the alternatives and better evaluate whether or not I'm on the right path or not. Oh yeah, I see. That's spelled really well, isn't it?
Okay. Well, that is true, because a lot of folks, I know, especially in roofing, they'll get one type of roof and just think that, on the next job they don't really rethink that decision about the roofing type, and it may not be the most appropriate choice, and so there's a strong tendency to just stick with the same old. But we do really need to look at each project individually and say, well, what's the best roof for this? What's the best sealant for this project in this location at this time and for this owner?
Right. And I just recently had a client request. You mentioned roofing. They're suggesting that as a specifier that I should have in my back pocket a spreadsheet that shows every imaginable membrane, the pluses, the minuses, the characteristics, so that they can use that to evaluate for their particular project. And I looked at them and I said, well, in the 15 years I've been working with you, I've only seen you use 3 membranes. So maybe there's a new need out there that I just don't know about, but I'll be surprised, I guess.
Well, the fact that the improving general knowledge gets a 92%, I think, shows a real commitment on the part of our audiences today to true professionalism, to really wanting to move ahead and strive for excellence and understand what they need to know to do a better job, and that's, I think, very heartening. I was a little surprised that they weren't expecting to get more information for immediate project applications.
I'm not so surprised about that. I think that if you're looking for something for a project, you're going to be on the phone with a product representative, or you're going to be talking to somebody in the industry asking that specific question. You're not going to be trying to arrange a seminar or lunch and learn or something to that effect to answer those immediate project questions.
That's true. There are some exceptions. For example, when the IBC took on added the requirement for luminous egress path markings, I arranged with one of my good friends who is a manufacturer's rep, and yes, a lot of my good friends are manufacturer's reps, to come in and do a lunch and learn on that specific product, so that people would have the knowledge that they needed for the projects that they had on the boards. Here's our last poll.
Yeah,
how do you measure presentation success? And Rob has opened that for voting. Would you tell us a little bit while we're waiting for the votes, David, why did you think this question was so important?
Well, if you're going to be attending presentations, I think there has to be some way to gauge whether or not they're successful, whether or not you actually got something out of them. I mean, we attend the AIA type presentations and any of the ones where they're offering credits, and they place a very high value on these stated learning objectives, and I'm curious whether or not those are something that's really important to folks. I have my own opinion as to what makes a successful presentation to me.
Okay. Well, we actually had 100% vote for gaining at least one new idea. We like those new ideas. And
I love that result.
Yeah, absolutely. In second place, at 57%, we had meeting the stated learning objectives. I don't know how many convention sessions and webinars I've bailed out on after the first 10 minutes because it was obvious that they were not going to give me what they told me they were going to give me. And that can be a very frustrating experience. 29% voted for learning units. And 21%.
And I'm glad to see that
is low.
I'm glad to see that earning the learning unit, yes, that it's low.
But it's not the primary
I
factor,
think that
yes.
Absolutely. And sometimes I think there's a lot of extra emphasis put on that learning units. And, you know, I sense even with the CSI meetings, AIA meetings and such, that if you're not offering the learning units, that you may not necessarily get the attendance that you would like to have. But having our group here respond that that's not a primary or not high on the primary list, I think is encouraging.
Yes, that's only a secondary, a distant secondary motivation. And then we had 21% vote for gaining a new contact. You know, of course, that's the definition of an expert, is knowing who to call with your hard questions. And only 7% voted for a superb meal.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a superb meal, but I sure hope that that's not the main reason for sitting through presentations.
Of course, Alan Itzkowitz contributes.
I'm glad to see.
Alan contributes the comment that a superb meal could be a measure of success as long as you remember who the manufacturer is that put on the presentation, and that's absolutely true. Of course, that's why those guys like to do giveaways like ballpoint pens and calculators and memory sticks that have their company logo on them. Alan also says, at my last firm, we use the guide that 50% come for the presentation and 50% for the lunch.
Well, and I think manufacturers will say that that's true too. But
I'm sure it is. Sandy McClellan suggests that having a program accredited for learning units implies that you will be likely to get the two main reasons satisfied, and she's quite right. That the other two things, getting the new ideas and meeting the learning objectives.
Right. Well, I will say I'm glad to see everyone in the group agreed with my primary reason for doing the presentations. And I think getting the new idea or looking at something in a new manner is paramount. Because if I can do that, I have now some new ammunition that I can take back to try to help solve client problems that may not come up this week, may not come up next week, but even months down the road, if you've been at least exposed to the idea, you may have a solution at hand when they are struggling to find one.
Okay.
So, Lewis, you said that was the last one, right? I believe you're right.
Yes.
Does that mean we finished early today?
We finished a bit early.
Because I wasn't here to interrupt you? Is that the reason? Okay.
So,
I'd like to suggest we just open it up for general comments, questions from the group, and see if there's any parting thoughts, something that we may not have touched on that's near and dear to somebody else.
Absolutely. And while we're waiting for those, I just want to again reiterate the importance of the CSI CDT training and reading the books for construction specifications and construction contract administration, because most folks learn those things just in bits and pieces, and some of what we learn is frankly idiosyncratic or urban legends Even when it's true, it's often disconnected. And my experience in teaching the basic modules for the CDT training is that I'd have guys come in who had 10, 15, 20 years more experience than me, and at the end of the series they would say, you know, I learned some stuff that they had not known, they had never picked up, or that they had seen it in context and how the different things fit together and make sense. So the training that CSI offers is unique in giving practical advice on how to do your daily tasks better, quicker, faster, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, and in support of that, too, one of the things that I'm doing is we're actually exhibiting at several of the local CSI Expo trade fair type shows, and usually the chapter is asking for door prizes. And the door prize that I always furnish is one of the practice guides. So I'm hoping that somebody actually takes it home with them, reads it, maybe even studies for the CDT or some of the advanced certifications, and we end up with a better industry as a result. Okay, Sandy McClellan's asking, is everyone in attendance today have at least one CSI certification? And I think the only way to be able to do this at this point is to do a hand raise. And I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to see that, but maybe Rob can help us out.
Oh, I can see them coming up. Let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You better start counting those that don't.
8, 9, 10. Yeah. Looks like definitely about half. So we hope that the other half are working on at least your CDT certification.
Right. And I won't ask anybody to say if they're had their certification longer than Wayne is telling us, Wayne Yancey, CCS in 1990.
Let's see, I think I got mine in
Wayne.
I think I got mine in 1985, back when you had to handwrite a spec section.
I'm there with you a few years earlier.
Terrific.
I would like to see them bring back that exam along with the 13-hour design problem for architectural registration.
All right.
Okay, and Sandy, did you really have to use a quill pen?
Yeah.
I hope it wasn't on parchment.
Okay. Well, what are we going to talk about next month, David?
I don't know. Did you decide yet?
Well, David and I are both participating next week in the Master Specifiers retreat. So at least part of our presentation will give you a brief rundown on how that went and what happened and so forth. We're looking at a couple of different ideas for the discussion, though, and so that's still a little up in the air. And if anybody has some suggestions, please send us an email and give us your ideas, because as I've said before, our goal here is to meet your needs, and what we think of may or may not be all that useful. So if there's a question that you want us to look at, we'll certainly try to address it.
Okay, and we will try to get the notice out earlier next month. We apologize for the late notice for everyone this month. That'll let you plan better.
Kim Tuliet Kirkpatrick suggests, will you have a discussion about coordination between designers in a project? So we'll put that on our list of things to think about.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Any other parting thoughts from anyone? We only have a couple minutes left before the 4 o'clock Eastern time hour.
Okay, well, we appreciate everyone's attendance today and participation. We really do. David and I, our goal is to try to increase audience participation, and so we hope that you will feel free to join us next month and stick in your oar and join us. We'd like to hear some of you actually get on the phone and chat with us and hear your voices too. So be thinking about that, and we'll try to get out our subject early in the month so that you can have plenty of time to think about embarrassing questions to ask Dave and complimentary things to say about me.
I'm not sure I like that split, but that's okay.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and sign off now. But so thank you again for attending, and we'll see you early next month.